make my morning. Happy morning. Although it is the first day of snowfall. Yeah. Anyone else up early enough to see snowfall? Yeah.
Needed a good 2 inches.
What?
Needed at least a good 2 inches.
Yeah.
More precipitation.
Kind of a fun way to wake up this morning, I guess. How about I let you out of here early today? Yeah. Anybody else needing a win? Alright. So I'm going to tell you my message. I'll make it brief. And I will hang around as long as you would like to talk about your group presentations, any questions about the course. Midterms were submitted last week, so if anyone has questions on midterms, now today would be the time. Do you guys mind pulling those doors shut? They're doing some work out in the hallway, and we don't want to disturb them. Thank you. All right, so the question today was not simply a quick one for attendance. It was a value, like kind of trying to assess your value of and your level of comfort with creating PowerPoint. So if you click a 1, that indicates that you are totally comfortable with creating a PowerPoint presentation. That means you can do that by yourself, no problem. And number 2, for any reason, if you would have any hesitation about your ability to create whatever a PowerPoint. Alright, so 1 for totally comfortable, 2 with comfortable, and how, what have you. What's your guess? You're the last class that asked that question. What percentage of this class is comfortable with PowerPoint? How high? I'll buy coffee after class if someone nails it right on the nose. Okay, you're putting yourself up in 73? All right. 95? Okay, I'll take 2 of you. 73 and 95. Kelly has to be sort of oh, you nailed it right on the head. 95% of you feel very comfortable in PowerPoint. And that's exactly why I did construct my notes right from the textbook. Woohoo! Right? Not verbatim. I didn't include all of the things that are interesting and important that Zareski deems important in chapter 14, which are when to use a pie chart, when to use a line graph, what is an object, what is a model, when it's appropriate to use a person. So please read that material, but I'm not going to feed you that because I'm afraid that you and I would both go to sleep. And I had made some assumptions about this particular audience that you would feel very comfortable with how to. And so I've adjusted my message to your needs. I said I'm looking at you right now, looking at Austin, my creative soul, one of many in this class, and how to adapt these tools to your style, your creative needs, or particular style. If you're, I want you to be leaving here thinking about what is a good fit for you, for your group, for the particular audience that you're addressing in this particular assignment and beyond. All right? The speech of the day, do you remember those? We haven't done one of those for a while. The speech of the day is conducted by a business analyst on the rhetoric and rhetorical choices of Steve Jobs. Remember that guy? Anyone read his autobiography? We lost Steve Jobs in 2011, and he is credited with one of the biggest business turnaround in the 21st century. And that company is Apple. Yeah. At the time of his death, in October of 2011, yes, Apple was the most valuable publicly traded company in America, in the United States. And they're pretty good products, no? How many loyal Apple fans out there? A lot of you, right? So he's selling he was selling a good product, he developed a good product. That's hard to argue. But he also did something with his rhetorical choices and strategy with the company and how they revealed the products. Did anyone ever get caught up in the reveal of a product? They're carrying that on. They're carrying the torch on the big reveal. He always created a lot of hype around the reveal of the product, and he did so, he made billions of dollars doing so. But Steve Jobs' style itself is pretty simple. And so we're going to take a look at that today. And I find that fascinating. I think amongst all of the political rhetoric that we're faced with, and those are easy pieces of rhetoric to pull from our headline news. I think it's also good to cross over into other industries, other disciplines, even if you will. We can take a look at what's affecting you. We've been doing that all semester, and so Steve Jobs is our speech of the day, profile, what have you. And I hope you enjoy that as well. It might call on you to think about your own style and finding your own voice. We all speak in very different ways. Okay, this is right out of your textbook, the benefits of visual aids. Oh wait, I've got one more question for you. Hang on. I wanted to find out what you thought of Don McMillan's piece the other day. Do you remember in stand-up style, how to avoid death by PowerPoint? Okay. I've been using that for 3 years, and when I use something for a while, I kind of do a temperature check and see what students think. So, true or false, Don McMillan's piece, Death by PowerPoint, was a helpful guide, influencing how I construct my own PowerPoint. True or false? I'd like to see what you think of the things that we're in. I kind of have to point marker printing. When I got rid of it, I used it in class the other day and it was fuzzy. I did include the right flip. Okay. All right. Did anyone go ahead and watch the 9-minute piece that was embedded in the notes? I'm sure you're busy at your time, but okay. You didn't have to watch the 9-minute piece, did you?
No, I didn't even know you embedded it in the notes.
Yeah. Okay, so this is right out of your book. This is not the only thing that comes verbatim right out of your book. There are very many benefits to using visual aids, and we've been talking about the use of visual aids, in particular the PowerPoint. And if something fails, if a visual aid fails, why do you think that happen? What are some reasons that you think I've seen and I would deem that a visual aid fails? Is it the aid itself? Usually? That's a loaded question. No. Usually, it's the fault of the student in how they use the visual aid. Particularly embedded clips, audio, even charts, diagrams, and objects. Think about times that you've been presented with something in a presentation and someone fails to introduce that. They just use that technology, particularly as an introductory device. Don't just simply start your presentation without some sort of verbal introduction, either of your group or if it's some sort of startling minute video. Take a moment and watch this piece. Do something to preface what it is that you've embedded in your presentation. And then when you're done, unpack that for your audience. Let them know the value of the piece. Or handouts. I've seen students try to hand something out to an audience while they're speaking, and that's, it takes up time, it's distracting, there was rustling of paper, and so it's always good to provide a handout when? Yeah, after or before. Yeah, maybe you're uber prepared, and you arrive to lab and you have at each place the handout, right? And so make some preparations with how you will use your visual aid so it will benefit your speech. Visual aids certainly can make your speech more interesting. I think many of you like it when, that's all right, when professors add in different things so it's not just one voice droning on the entire time. And maybe you'll think about things that might enhance what you have to say. It might build your credibility if you've researched a topic and you need to provide statistical representation, or there's an interesting piece that would be depicted by a graph or a model. It can certainly lend to the credibility of you and your group and your overall message. It might serve to improve how your audience remembers your speech, particularly where it's placed. There's a primacy recency theory that we study in communication, and that's it depends upon where you place your material, not only your visual aids, but your message. Some people tend to remember what they hear first and last more than what they hear in the middle, and that's some theory of primacy recency. And it can also strengthen your argument. A visual aid can serve as an argument. Al Gore's very famous piece served as his argument, and that film was Inconvenient Truth, exactly. But I also want to think, and this is not something that Zarefsky talks about, but I'm challenge you to think about, what is your own style? What do you say? What is it that you construct that reflects on your word choice, your particular verbal and nonverbal style? I'm talking about even thinking of how you dress the part. Do you coordinate your group to wear business casual, business professional? Are you going to coordinate 5 seats, 4 seats, so that you're totally in sync in terms of your nonverbal presentation, even when you're not speaking? Those things matter. Some of the most impressive speeches I've seen where students line up and they practice with their arms at their side, and when someone speaks, they step forward, and it's time, and it's in sync. And that can be very impressive if it's done well. So think about the style, your verbal, your nonverbal, your linguistic style. We can think of times that there's been a breakdown of communication with what we've chosen to put in our presentation, and how could it be avoided. When you design your visual aids, and Don McMillan had this message, err on the side of being too simple. There's a rule of 6 with PowerPoint, and that the 6 words in a headline, I'm violating that rule right now, and no more than 6 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But it is a little wordy in the rule of 6 that is put forward with having an effective slide. Your visual aid should be seen easily, and I think we don't have a problem with that in the classrooms. Most of our classrooms are smart classrooms, and so your audience will be, their eyes will be projected up when you're referring to your visual aid. Make sure that you use your visual aid well, that you gesture this way rather than turn around and never read your PowerPoint to your audience. That's boring. Maintain eye contact with them, and it should be aesthetically pleasing. Limit your visual aid. So I already am calling on you to limit. You have no more than 5 or 6 slides for this next presentation, but avoid that temptation when you leave this classroom and you make other presentations, and no one's watching the amount of slides that you are limiting. If you're giving a 5-minute presentation, and I've seen this, 5-minute presentation, avoid the temptation to put everything in your slides and have 11 or 12 slides. I usually challenge my students in other upper level classes that I teach to speak from the aid of 1 slide. And they can hyperlink out of that slide, but I usually challenge them to speak from 1 slide. That promotes optimum extemporaneous speech. That means that they're looking at their audience and they're interacting with them, and the focus is on their content rather than all the fancy things that they can put in their PowerPoint. So we've talked about design and we've talked about effectiveness. Now let's talk about you and your professionalism in presentation. The other day we saw Dr. Don McMillan's How to Avoid Death by PowerPoint. Here's another piece. It has an absence of any language. It's only words on the PowerPoint slide, but it builds on what Don shares with us and then adds a little bit more interest. It makes you think about Obama's speech as if he would have been by PowerPoint in the last general election cycle. So take a look at this. It's kind of interesting. 95% of PowerPoints are bad. I don't know where they're getting that statistic. set of stump speeches via PowerPoint, it would have the same bullet points and very simplistic language. But there were some good points in that as well, in terms of building a central message, creating a theme, and think about what we do see with stump speeches, because I think that you can glean quite a bit of education with just what our politicians are doing, not only the presidential candidates, but even some of the local state races that we see with the stump speech that is provided. Does everyone know what a stump speech is? Someone tell me what your definition would be of a stump speech. What is a stump speech in political rhetoric? Don't be scared. Okay. Do you have stump speeches in Spain? Yeah, okay, so what are they? What do politicians do in Spain where they replicate the same message over and over and over again? I don't know. You're putting me on the spot. We're going to blast it. What's that? They bore the audience? No, they're actually supposed to have the opposite effect. It's supposed to entice the audience. You guys know what a stump speech is, right? I'm bringing this over here. This is my stump. It was the tradition of 19th century politicians to stand up on a stump and give their message and gesture grandly and catch the attention of a crowd, of a gathered crowd, as they travel from community to community. So politicians still travel from community to community, right? We don't have a stump that they stand on. Now they coordinate stages and different venues that they can be seen and heard. But politicians are making the same speech over and over and over again to build their campaign, to feed their platform, to be consistent with their words, right? And words are important. They're using buzzwords to create that consistency and replicate the same message. What are some of the words of politicians that you hear over and over and over again in this election cycle? You don't have to tie them to any particular candidate. Have you focused on them? Political pundits are. They're focusing on the words of our politicians. And you might think of it. You might really pay attention to which words are replicated and used again and again. Lots of times the podium right in front of a candidate contains even a single word that sums up their platform. Pay attention to those and see how that central message is maintained. Forward. Yeah, Obama says forward right now. Does Romney have a word or a certain buzzword that he uses?
Believe in America.
What's that?
Believe in America.
Believe? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's interesting. And think about it as, because you're building your own campaigns, right? An advocacy campaign. You should be thinking of some of that strategy that makes it memorable and emotive and interesting for an audience. And so a stump speech is meant to excite and build enthusiasm and consistency in the message. There are 4 C's to communicator credibility, and I want you to think about how it is that your group is a credible voice for the topic that you're developing. Each of you need to convey a strong level of confidence that you've shared in the research agenda that you've gathered your credible pieces of evidence. Qualify your sources. I can't say that enough. Tell us where it is that you're obtaining your material, and that matters because that reflects on your confidence, your ability to gather good material that speaks well on your topic. That we are a trustworthy voice. Your character shines through. We've already started to derive so much about your character, and be a pleasant surprise that way to us in class. And being a charismatic speaker doesn't mean that you have to be out of your mind enthusiastic. I happen to be a pretty happy person, but you don't have to be bubbly if that's not your style. But you have to have some enthusiasm and some interest and convey that verbally and non-verbally in your speeches. And think about the topics. I hope you've chosen topics that you can muster up a good level of enthusiasm for the audience, the occasion, and the message itself. In co-orientation, you need to remember that for later on. Co-orientation is how you identify with the audience and how they identify with you. Are you tapping into some common core values? There's a reason why that African Thirst Project stayed with me. There's a reason why I was motivated to help with the local backpack program after hearing an advocacy speech about that. Those tapped into some of my common core values. And so think about your audience and how your credibility and the credibility of the group really does matter. from here, I offer up the speech of the day, which is an analysis of Steve Jobs and his rhetoric. This is an analysis by a business consultant, and it's meant for business managers, but many of the elements that he's depicting are transferable to you right now, today, with your own project. So this is about a 6-minute analysis with large portions of Jobs' speech on a product reveal intertwined. And so I think it's pretty interesting. I hope you enjoy it, and we'll talk about it after we hear it.
Anyone who has watched the Steve Jobs keynote will tell you he is one of the most extraordinary speakers in corporate America. Who does the best job of that in the world? While most presenters simply convey information, Jobs inspires. I'm Carmine Gallo, and today I'll walk you through several key techniques that Steve Jobs uses to electrify his audience. There are elements you can adopt in your very next presentation.
Welcome to Macworld 2008. We've got some great stuff for you. There's clearly something in the air today.
With those words, Jobs opened Macworld 2008, setting the theme for his presentation and hinting at the major announcement of the day, the launch of the ultra-thin MacBook Air. Whether it's a new notebook or the iPhone, Jobs unveils a single headline that sets the theme.
Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone.
Once you identify a theme, make sure it's clear and consistent throughout the presentation. Think of a staff meeting as a presentation. So let's say you're a sales manager introducing a new software tool to help your team generate, track, and share sales leads. You might kick off your meeting this way. Good morning, thanks for coming. I know you'll be really excited about this. Today we make it easier for you to make your quota. That's the headline. Easier to make quota. It's memorable, and it sets the direction for the rest of your meeting. It gives your audience a reason to listen.
So I got 4 things I'd like to talk about with you today. Let's get started.
Steve Jobs always provides an outline for his presentation and then verbally opens and closes each section with a clear transition in between. Here's an example.
So that's Time Capsule, a perfect companion to Leopard, and that's the first thing I wanted to share with you this morning.
The point is, make it easy for your listeners to follow your story. Your outline will serve as guideposts along the way. You'll also notice that during his presentations, Jobs uses words like extraordinary, amazing, and cool. He is passionate, enthusiastic, and it shows.
Incredible, unbelievable, amazing, awesome, extraordinary year for Apple.
You know, your audience wants to be loud, not put to sleep. Too many people fall into this presentation mode. It's stiff, it's formal, it lacks pizzazz. We, your listeners, are giving you permission to have fun and to be excited about your company, your product, or your service. If you're not passionate about it, we're not going to be. Remember, Jobs isn't selling hardware. He's selling an experience. If you offer numbers and statistics, make them meaningful.
We have sold 4 million iPhones to date. If you divide 4 million by 200 days, that's 20,000 iPhones every day on average.
Numbers don't mean much unless they're placed in context. Managers, connect the dots for your listeners. Recently, I worked with a company that launched a 12-gigabyte memory card. 12 gigabytes! That number doesn't mean much to most people, so we put it into context. We said that's enough memory to listen to your music while traveling to the moon and back. Now, 12 gigs means something to me. Make numbers meaningful. One of the most effective elements of the Steve Jobs presentation is that they are easy on the eyes. His presentations are visual and simple. While most speakers fill their slides with mind-numbing data and text and charts, Jobs does just the opposite. He uses very little text and usually one, maybe two images per slide. You see, you want to paint a picture for your audience without overwhelming them. Inspired presentations are short on bullet points and big on visuals. If you really want your presentation to pop, treat it like a show with ebbs and flows, themes, and transitions. Jobs includes video clips, demonstrations, and guests. He also has a knack for dramatic flair. It's very effective. For example, when introducing the MacBook Air, Jobs drew cheers by opening a manila interoffice envelope and holding the laptop out for everyone to see.
This is the new MacBook Air, and you can get a feel for how thin it is.
What is the one memorable moment of your presentation? Identify it ahead of time, then build up to it.
A little help from our friends, everything will work today.
And finally, rehearse, rehearse, and rehearse some more.
Let me show you how easy that is now.
Steve Jobs makes it look easy because he spends hours rehearsing. He cannot pull off an intricate presentation, video clips, and demonstrations, and outside speakers without practice. The result, a presentation that is perfectly synchronized and looks, yes, effortless. Now, the average business person does not have the resources to create a Steve Jobs extravaganza, but you do have time to rehearse. The greatest presenters do it, and so should you. Oh, and one more thing. At the end of most presentations, Jobs adds to the drama by saying, and one more thing.
One last thing.
He then adds a new product or a feature, sometimes just introduces a band. This not only heightens the excitement, it also leaves your audience feeling they've been given an added bonus. The point is, Steve Jobs approaches each presentation as an event. A production with a strong opening, product demonstrations in the middle, and a strong conclusion. And yes, even an encore, that one more thing. I wish you a dazzling presentation.
For more information.
I think you do have the ability to create a Steve Jobs-like presentation. Our use and access to technology has even increased quite a bit since 2009 when that video was created. And so I give you creative license. Introduce one of my past students, Cody, played a ukulele in his intro to his conclusion. It was great. He had the entire class clapping and cheering him on, and so think outside the box like that. And consider developing your theme, your thesis statement, and being consistent with that throughout. Provide the show. You're informing, you're persuading, and you might be entertaining. And that certainly can be memorable. I like the message that was given about being clear and consistent, providing the outline, and especially the transitions. Many times group members don't plan for the transitions between themselves. And so plan to introduce the next speaker, recap, review what someone has said, and transition to the next person, telling us who it is that is speaking. Think about the words that you're choosing. And there's a great book. There is a great book. It was written in 2007 by Frank Luntz, Luntz. A lot. And that book is 21 Words for the 21st Century. And it's in IDEA's library. I use that in my business and professional speaking class because, too often we don't think about the words that we use. Words don't just happen to us. We choose our words. And we certainly should choose our words if we're wanting to build a campaign and let the audience digest what it is that we have to say. So, anything else that I missed that you thought was interesting about Steve Jobs? Had you ever thought about his style? Those with the blue eyes and the black hair. But it fit his style. He was simple, he was neat, he was very strategic, and he wasn't out of his mind. That wasn't part of his effort. He was sincere, but he built hype around these products, and his presentations were well planned and fun. So I thought he was a good example, a good case study for today. Other things that I would want you to leave this particular class, and particularly today, with was that you resist the temptation to use too many of the features, that you really think about what you're going to put into your presentation. and that you think about the maximum effect and practice with your group and your visual aid. That means you have to get your material done and coordinated early, and then pull your group together and practice. This next week, we really are going to have pizza, right? Catherine ordered pizza for us, and so on one of those nights is Halloween. It's on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Wednesday's Halloween.
Right? Yeah. On Tuesday and Wednesday, we'll have pizza in the PC. We're going to have some extra staff on hand in case you want to gather in the PC next week and have supper on us, dinner, whatever you call it, and practice. And so, rehearse, and plan. I just have 3 quiz questions for you, and I'm letting you out early. Like I said, I'll stay here as long as I want. I owe you coffee. And we'll have a great week.